So today, lads, we're going to be talking about free agents that the Indiana Fever could sign. I'm not going to say need to sign, but I will say could sign. And obviously, with the new rules coming out about the core designation, Kelsey Mitchell is officially a free agent. The Fever have no rights to Kelsey Mitchell whatsoever. So she will obviously be on this list. So before we get on to it though, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We are trying to hit 57.6k by the end of the day. We are 17 subscribers off. So the first player we're going to talk about is Kelsey Mitchell herself. And this is something that needs to be taken into account because this would be a no-brainer. You're keeping Kelsey Mitchell if it wasn't for the fact that Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston are both eligible for max contracts a year early. So what that means is next season they're not going to be able to afford to keep all three of them unless they're super duper smart with how they build out the rest of the team. Kelsey Mitchell is coming off the season of her life. There's no more core and trade options, so that's not really an option either to get any value from her. I think the reality is that you want to keep Kelsey Mitchell. You want to keep Kelsey Mitchell on the team. And her, like we saw the way Paige sprints out, the way Kelsey Plum does. Kelsey Mitchell is the same thing with Caitlin Clark. Maybe not the defender of either of those two players, but offensively, I think as superior a fit as it is. The problem with Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark for me is not Kelsey Mitchell. The problem is Stephanie White. Is that Stephanie White clearly deems Kelsey Mitchell to be a more primary ball handler, whereas Kelsey Mitchell, in my opinion, is better as an off-the-ball player. I don't know how it fits. I don't think she's there long term, but I think Kelsey Mitchell's somebody that, unless she wants out, you got to keep next year. Sophie Cunningham is another player that we have to talk about because of all the UFAs. Like they're not bringing back Howard. They're not bringing. Well, Chloe Bibby's not UFA, but they're not bringing back Shea Petty. They're not bringing back Odyssey Sims. They better not bring back Ari McDonald. She's fucking crippled and she'll command 500k. They're not bringing back Shea Petty. They're not bringing back Aerial Powers. Maybe Aerial Powers is a really interesting one. And if you can't afford Sophie Cunningham, give me Aerial Powers on like a minimum, because I think she might play for the minimum. Like Aerial Powers gives you she'll fight somebody for you. She gives you a lot of grit of Sophie Cunningham. She's not as good as Sophie. She's not as good a shooter as Sophie. A better shot creator than Sophie. Not as good a better defender in some way. Sophie Cunningham's versatility is scary. Like I don't think people understand when it comes to Sophie is just how versatile a player she is, how consistent she is, how efficient she is. She will play a 6.5 out of 10 defensive game and a 7.5 out of 10 offensive game nearly every game. She will give you a consistent 7 out of 10. She is the perfect fifth starter. She is the perfect sixth starter. If you understand sixth starter, I mean like no matter who gets injured on your team, she comes in the starting lineup and fills whatever role is needed. She is a Swiss Army knife type player. It's tough to find a Sophie Cunningham. It really is. Like better versions of Sophie Cunningham are Leo Phoebish, and I think she's probably the peak of a Sophie Cunningham, and then Citron is probably a better version of a Sophie Cunningham too, but these players are hard to find. It's really difficult to find a Swiss Army knife player. I think Sophie Cunningham, if you're paying above 7, like you can't afford to keep her as a Kelsey Mitchell. Unpopular opinion. I might take Sophie, but it does lower. Sophie lowers your ceiling. But going with choosing Sophie Cunningham over Kelsey Mitchell means fully committing to Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston. And it gives you that cap flexibility freedom to get in a power forward which I'll talk a little bit later. But obviously with some of the players I'm talking about later, some of them are dependent on Kelsey Mitchell not being there. So yeah, anyway, we're going next. And obviously there were 2 on the team. These 5 players are 5 players from other teams. So first up is Meg Gustafson, cost a minimum. Meg Gustafson will be available on the minimum. What Meg Gustafson is that we've seen her sometimes playing for the Aces where she hasn't been great. We've seen her play for the I think she's had decent seasons in the W. We saw her play for Spain where she looked exceptional. What does she do? She seals well. She throws her body around. Not particularly athletic. The effort's there and she runs hard. She's not fast. Not a great big defender. Absolutely not a great big defender. Good shooter. Good shooter. She's Dantas with more size and effort, but not the finesse and touch of Dantas. But again, Dantas, when she puts on a Brazil jersey, is a different player to Dantas in a Fever jersey. Gustafson gives you a bit of size. She was a different look to a Nalissa Smith off the bench. She worked well with Aja. She's from Iowa, obviously. Is absolutely somebody that, if you get on a minimum, will be a competent. She's a champion backup center. The Aces signed her off the back of a championship to be a backup. She is a competent backup center who will probably be available for the minimum. Very, very solid player. I've seen her play for Fenner where she's looked really, really good. And yeah, she's been actually fantastic. Another player I just completely forgot. To mention is Monique Billings. So Monique Billings has doubled her value since playing for this Team USA. I don't know if you can afford Monique Billings. I think Monique Billings was going to be in the near minimum 400k range prior to this Team USA showing, because I'm not going to lie, like, she was the fourth choice power forward at times for she had play 14 minutes per game for the 8th seed. Like, she's a 400k contract player who maybe put herself into the 700k range, an above average player. Her link-up play with Caitlin Clark is exceptional. The problem is that it might be a lot of money for a bench player, and I don't know how she fits alongside Leah Boston because she doesn't shoot the ball very well. It is very dependent on Leah Boston developing that 3-ball. If Leah Boston's 3-ball development unrivaled translates over, then yes, absolutely Monique Billings is a perfect fit. If it doesn't translate over, I think it's a really tough one. So Monique Billings would be a really interesting one for Indiana to go for, but I don't know if it's Kelsey Mitchell dependent or not. You know what? I'm actually going to say this. I think they'll be able to afford Monique Billings regardless of Kelsey Mitchell. I think they're going to be able to afford if they keep Kelsey Mitchell. However, the next two power forwards I'm going to talk about, they're not going to be able to afford with Kelsey Mitchell. There's two non-Kelsey Mitchell dependent power forwards. Monique Billings, I think if they keep Kelsey Mitchell, they'll be able to afford her. Then we got Julie Vanloo. So you got to look at archetypes of players and not necessarily what players did stats wise. So like if you look at Julie Vanloo, she had a couple of she's coming off. She had a season in Golden State where she shot okay from three, bad from the field. In Washington where she averaged 4.3 assists, 2.6 turnovers, not ideal, but again nearly 2-1. In Golden State, she averaged 4.6 points per game, barely played off the LA Sparks bench, 10 minutes a game, 2.2 points, not ideal. But the big thing with Julie Vanloo is you're looking at archetypes. So if you watch her play for Belgium, she's a Kelsey Mitchell type shooting guard. She'll chuck. She'll be a shot creating guard. But if you watch her play for, I think she played for Mersin this year, or you watched her play for Washington, she was a pass first point guard. And it's very difficult to find a backup for Caitlin because you need somebody that's okay to play 5 minutes a game or can play the 2 and also play the 1 and run the show. And run the show with a bit of pace, which Julie Vanloo likes to do. Is she as good as Julie Allemond? No. Julie Allemond's a better player, but in terms of fit, she can play on the ball, she can play off the ball. She does both of them well. She can be a really nice, again, energy spark plug. Seems to be loved by every single fan of every team she's ever been on. She's going to have games where she wins you games. She's going to have games where she's completely and utter garbage. That's the thing. She is a live wire, ultra poor man's Kelsey Mitchell, who somehow can also play a true point guard if needed. So she's someone who can play the 2 if Caitlin's on, who can play the 1 if Caitlin's off, and also can play as a pass first 1 and get the ball to Caitlin. So I think archetype wise, she is what you need. I just don't know. I don't know how she didn't have the greatest season in Europe this year, from what I saw in EuroLeague. So it's tough it's a tough one, but on a minimum, it's going to be really tough to find a true backup. Ari doesn't fit with Caitlin. Odyssey doesn't fit with Caitlin. It's really hard to find an archetype for a backup point guard that fits with Caitlin Clark. I think Wheeler didn't, which is why I'm not suggesting to bring Erica Wheeler back. It's really hard, and Julie Vanloo is suggesting because I think archetype-wise she might work. Julie Allen's ideal, but she's not unrestricted. Then we got Beck Allen. Now, this is what I'm going to call getting someone on the margins. Like, Beck Allen is potentially the most, like, slandered player in the WNBA. Because whatever about Rachel Banham, Beck Allen was a starter above Sophie Cunningham for the Phoenix Mercury. Her going down injured was a key reason why the Phoenix Mercury were so bad in 2024. If you look at Beck Allen's stats, she had some years where she was hardly playing. She had years where she hardly played. But then, out of nowhere, in 2021, 9.2 points per game on what you call it, 38% from three. Then had 7 points per game for the Liberty. And then she goes to the Connecticut Sun. Where did she go to Sun? She was a key piece in the MVP John Quell trade. And in this season, she shoots 35% from three, averages 6.4 points per game as a starter for a 30-win team playing under, guess who? Stephanie White. Then she goes to Phoenix, starts 18 games on 36% from three, 25 minutes per game, 7.4 points per game. That is what you want from a fifth starter. That's what you want from a fifth starter or a bench player. You want 7.5 points per game for decent height, shoots the shit out of the ball. It's just last season in Chicago, she forgot how to shoot. She was unbelievable to start the year, and then it was just like she forgot how to play basketball. Like, she had a really good couple of year spell where she was a key player for really good teams. Like for 3 straight years. New York were not good in 2021, but for 3 straight years, she was a starter on really good teams, then went to Chicago, and her reputation has gone in the gutter for near minimum because she might be out of the fucking league. This is a player Sky gave up assets for. On a near minimum, Beck Allen is a fantastic player to pick up. Then you've got Azura Stevens. They can't afford Azura Stevens if they keep Kelsey Mitchell. So Azura was there or thereabouts winning most improved for a lot of last year. She's 6'6" and shoots the shit out of the ball. Not much of a shot blocker for her size. Good rebounder. Really good rebounder. Big. She's got length. She's strong. Someone who didn't have the greatest year on Rivals. It doesn't really matter too much. Azura is somebody that will fit beside Leah Boston. She has a little bit of athleticism. She shoots the 3 ball. I don't know exactly how she is in the pick and roll, but a solid pickup. Genuinely a solid pickup. The problem is that she's going to command minimum 800k, and if the Fever keep Kelsey Mitchell, they can't. And then last up, another player I was looking at, I was about to say other power forwards. I had Alana Smith on my list originally. I took her off it. I don't think with Fever getting Alana Smith. Last up is a player that I think is if you lose Sophie, what do you need? You need versatility, you need shooting, and you need somewhat consistency. And I really rated Karlie Samuelson high. Yes, she got injured last year. She got injured and then got traded she got injured, then got traded, then got cut. So she's somebody that the Minnesota Lynx gave up their first round pick in this year's draft. Like their late first round pick, but they gave up their first round pick in this year's draft for her. So they had their first round pick. They gave it up in order to get Karlie Samuelson. The Lynx, who were a championship team, deemed her were a first round pick. Karlie Samuelson had a very solid season for Washington in which she shot 40% from 3 and 40% from the field. She is a career 40% 3-point shooter. She is a plus defender. I've seen her. She's a disciplined defender. She's a plus defender in my opinion. She's somebody that can dribble a little bit. I've seen her at times run the 1. She can play the 2 pretty well. She can sometimes play the 3 because she's relatively tall. Like she's 6 foot tall. She can play the 3 a little bit. Like if you're looking at a Sophie Cunningham type mold, if you get Karlie Samuelson open as much as Sophie Cunningham got open, you hope she gives you something similar. And she's going to be like, she's going to be a minimum. She's coming off a season where she's 30, she'll be 31. She's coming off a season where she got waived and cut. or she got traded and waived because of an injury. And I don't know if she played overseas, but like if you want a just solid pair of hands and you lose Sophie Cunningham and you're looking for someone on the cheap, Karlie Samuelson is perfect for that. And guys, if you guys agree, remember, subscribe. We are trying to hit 57,500 or 600 by the end of the day.